House Speaker Mike Johnson faces re-election challenge. House Speaker Mike Johnson is seeking a smooth re-election to another term wielding the gavel, but a small group of discontent conservatives are again vying to shake things up at the top. House Republicans are set to vote for a slate of leadership positions behind closed doors on Wednesday, where Mr. Johnson and most of his team hope to win re-election to their posts. Mr. Johnson has largely secured the support of the GOP conference. Republican lawmakers are celebrating election wins that will keep them in the majority and give them the green light to pass the agenda of President-elect Donald Trump, who plans an in-person visit to their closed-door meeting in the Capitol. Mr. Trump's swing by the House comes as Mr. Johnson faces a potential challenge from some of the most conservative members of his party who aren't satisfied with his leadership style or ability to get legislation across the finish line with a slim majority, which the GOP will again contend with in January. Mr. Trump has praised Mr. Johnson, but some conservatives want to consider other options. So far, no GOP lawmaker has publicly announced a challenge. But House Freedom Caucus Chair Andy Harris of Maryland did not rule one out. "Last I looked, this is America, and having two people in a race is kind of the norm," Mr. Harris said. "We can do this Soviet style, or we can do this American style." Mr. Johnson would easily defeat a challenger in a GOP conference vote, which requires only a simple majority to win. But a challenger would signal a faction within the House GOP that Mr. Johnson may need to negotiate with in order to win the Speaker's gavel in January, when nearly all GOP lawmakers must vote for him in order to defeat the Democrats' nominee, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Mr. Johnson has remained bullish that he will keep the gavel, putting heavy emphasis on his role in helping the House GOP keep the majority. "When it was all said and done, I did more than 360 campaign events in over 250 cities across 40 states, and I logged enough miles to circumnavigate the globe 5.5 times, he said. "But it was worth it. It was worth it, and we got extraordinary candidates. We flipped blue seats to red as we planned, and we kept this majority." Indeed, House Republicans are projected to keep the majority, albeit by another narrow margin. So far, Republicans have won 214 seats to Democrats' 205, with 16 races still uncalled in Alaska, Arizona, California, Maine, Ohio, and Oregon. Mr. Johnson may also be bolstered by Mr. Trump, who has been vocally supportive of his leadership. Mr. Johnson has made regular visits to his Mar-a-Lago headquarters and has vowed to aggressively push to pass Trump policy during the incoming president's first 100 days in office. He pledged to raise an America First banner above Congress and hit the ground running to deliver President Trump's agenda to turn this country around and unleash, as he says, a new golden age in America. If Mr. Trump goes to bat for Mr. Johnson on Wednesday morning, he likely would snuff out any opposition against him. National Republican Congressional Committee Chairman Rich Hudson of North Carolina lauded Mr. Johnson, saying his dauntless energy and $27 million contribution to the House GOP's campaign arm put Republicans in a position to keep the lower chamber. "Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You've earned your gavel," Mr. Hudson said. Still, his road to staying in power may have some speed bumps. Some conservatives were at odds with Mr. Johnson throughout his speakership, taking issue with his decisions on Ukraine aid and government funding bills. He will likely face opposition from reps Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia and Thomas Massie of Kentucky, who both launched a failed attempt to oust him from the speakership earlier this year that garnered support from nearly a dozen conservatives.